Your brother has the vision this company needs, my father declared, handing him my business. I left without a word. A year later, they begged, devastated. The day I watched my father hand my brother the keys to the business I'd built with my own hands was the day I finally understood what it meant to be truly alone. The leather folder sliding across the polished mahogany desk, the smirk on Eric's face, the way my father couldn't quite meet my eyes. The weight of that moment crushed something inside me that I never managed to fully rebuild. I stood there 30 years old, with calloused hands and a spine bent from carrying the weight of Kane Electrical for over a decade. 14 years of showing up before dawn. 14 years of night classes and certifications. 14 years of building a reputation in a town where your word and your work were all that mattered. All of it stolen with a signature and the thud of my father's heavy signet ring against the desk. Samuel was never committed enough, my father told Eric, as if I wasn't standing right there. Too rigid, too by the book, this company needs someone with vision. Vision, that's what he called it when Eric, my younger brother by 3 years, dropped out of college to find himself in Thailand for a year. That's what he called it when Eric burned through a small fortune trying to start a nightclub that closed within 6 months. That's what he called it when Eric showed up at job sites hung over, or not at all. Meanwhile, I was the one poring over blueprints until midnight. I was the one who modernized our billing system, who secured the Westridge development contract that doubled our business. I was the one who never complained, who always did what was expected, who believed my father when he said, "Someday, son, this will all be yours." And then there was Heather. God, Heather. Even now, 3 years later, the thought of her name sends a ripple through my chest, like someone dragging their fingernails across a fresh scab. I met her at a client's housewarming party, this bright, laughing woman with honey-colored hair and eyes that crinkled at the corners when she smiled. We moved fast, too fast, maybe. Within a year, we were engaged, planning a wedding, looking at houses. I brought her into my world completely. Sunday dinners with my parents, work parties with my crew. She even got along with Eric, which I saw as a blessing at the time. Family harmony, I thought. I never saw the lingering glances, the inside jokes, the way conversations would suddenly stop when I entered a room. Looking back, I should have known something was wrong the night Heather suggested I take that emergency call in Boulder, a 3-hour drive each way. "You need to be there for your clients," she'd said, kissing me goodbye. "That's why they trust you." It was past midnight when I returned, bone-tired but proud of myself for handling the crisis. Our driveway had an unfamiliar car parked in it. Eric's new BMW. My stomach knew before my brain did, a cold pit forming as I walked toward our bedroom and heard them, those unmistakable sounds that change you forever once you've heard them. I don't remember much about the confrontation. Fragments flash in my memory, Heather clutching sheets to her chest. Eric's expression, not even shame, just annoyance at being caught. The lamp that shattered when I slammed the door. The next morning brought worse news. Heather was pregnant. The timing lined up with a business trip I'd taken 6 weeks earlier. Eric's or mine, she wasn't sure, but they'd developed feelings. They were truly sorry. My father's reaction was what broke me. Not anger at his younger son, not compassion for me, just a calculated readjustment of his plans. "Blood is blood," he said a week later, calling us both to his office. "And family comes first. Samuel, you need to understand, your brother is going to be a father. He needs stability now." The memory of what came next still makes my hands tremble. The leather portfolio, the company transfer papers, the house that had been promised to me and Heather as a wedding present, now being signed over to Eric and her instead, all to keep things in the family. All so perfectly legal, so brutally efficient. "You'll land on your feet," my father said, not unkindly. "You were always the responsible one. Eric needs this more than you do. Need versus deserve." At that moment, I understood that I had spent my entire life confusing the two. My mother said nothing, just dabbed at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. Later, she would call me, whispering about how she disagreed with my father, how she was on my side. But when it mattered, she sat silently. Complicity dressed up as sympathy. I left that office with nothing but my certification papers and a hollowness that echoed with every heartbeat. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I simply walked out, got into my truck, and drove until the gas light came on. 2 days later, I accepted a job with Reynolds Contracting in Denver, 3 hours away. I left without saying goodbye, changed my number, cut the cord completely. I rented a small apartment near my new work site. bare walls, second-hand furniture. Starting over at 30 feels different than starting over at 20. Your back aches more. Your optimism has sharp edges. The first few months were a blur of work and silent evenings. I took every overtime shift available, volunteered for the jobs nobody wanted, pushed myself until exhaustion guaranteed dreamless sleep. But something unexpected happened as the months passed. Without my father's shadow, without Eric's chaos, without constantly trying to prove myself, I found I was actually good at what I did. Really good. Reynolds recognized it too. 6 months in, they promoted me to team lead. 3 months after that, I was managing my own crews. By the 1-year mark, I had clients specifically requesting me by name. I earned my master electrician's license, started teaching night classes at the trade school, built a new circle of friends who knew nothing about my past, who took me at face value. News from home came whether I wanted it or not. My mother's tearful voicemails, which I deleted without listening past the first sentence. Christmas cards returned unopened. A persistent ache that dulled but never disappeared completely. 6 months after I left, the first tremors of Kane Electrical's collapse began. A former colleague texted that Eric had shown up drunk to the Peterson project meeting, insulting the client so badly they pulled their $200,000 contract on the spot. My fingers hovered over the phone. Delete. Not my problem anymore. Next came the safety violation at the Westridge development. Live wires left exposed overnight because Eric forgot to inspect before closing the site. A $15,000 fine and a formal warning from the licensing board. The superintendent who'd specifically requested me for years now refused to work with Kane Electrical altogether. Each update arrived like distant thunder, the storm inevitable, just a matter of time. By the 18-month mark, Eric had lost 3 of our 5 major commercial clients. Dad had started showing up at job sites, trying to smooth things over, his pride crumbling in real time as he made excuses for his chosen successor. The irony tasted metallic in my mouth. Not satisfaction, not quite grief, something more complicated, the dull ache of confirmation. Word came that Eric had hired his drinking buddies as project managers, men who couldn't tell a circuit breaker from a light switch. 2 critical installations failed inspection. A client sued for damages after faulty wiring caused equipment failure. Through the industry grapevine, I heard suppliers had started demanding payment up front, the ultimate vote of no confidence. The business I had poured my soul into was dying by 1,000 cuts, each one traceable to the moment my father decided I wasn't worthy of my birthright. In my 3rd year away, the rumors became desperate whispers. My father had mortgaged their house to cover mounting debts. Eric was drinking openly on job sites now, abandoning any pretense of competence. The business license was under review after a 4th major safety violation. Heather had finally left him, taking their son, my nephew, or perhaps my son, the paternity never confirmed, to stay with her sister. Each piece of news landed like another stone in my stomach. My chest tightened with emotions I couldn't name, didn't want to name. I felt nothing. Or rather, I felt too much to identify any single emotion in the storm. I was building something new here, teaching apprentices the right way to do things, dadding occasionally, though nothing serious, healing slowly. Then came the day I looked up from a junction box to see my father standing in the doorway of the half-finished office building. Older, smaller somehow. The confident posture gone, replaced by the slight stoop of a man carrying too much. "Samuel," he said, my name cracking between his lips like thin ice. My hands continued their work, methodically securing wires with the precision that had become my trademark. Each twist of copper a meditation, a barrier between his desperation and my hard-won peace. "Son, please, 5 minutes." I nodded to my apprentice to take a break, then faced the man who had shattered my world. Up close, the changes were shocking. Gray skin stretched too tight over cheekbones. Bloodshot eyes swimming with unspoken pleas. Hands that trembled slightly, those once steady hands that had taught me to hold my first screwdriver. Something twisted inside me. Not pity, not quite. "You look tired," I said, my voice neutral. He attempted a smile that never reached his eyes. "Your mother asks about you every day." The familiar manipulation. The weight of family obligation like a hand on the back of my neck, pressing down. I said nothing, just waited. "The business," he began, then cleared his throat. "We're struggling, you've probably heard." I nodded once. The silence stretched between us like a live wire. "Eric tried," he said, the lie hanging awkwardly in the air. He really did, but it turns out he doesn't have your attention to detail. Is that what we're calling it now? My voice was quiet but edged with steel. He flinched, looked down at his expensive shoes, now scuffed and worn. Your grandfather's legacy, 3 generations of Kane men. The same speech he'd given me since childhood. The weight of family history as both gift and burden. I was wrong, he finally said, the words falling heavily between us. 3 words dropped into the space between us like stones into still water. 3 years too late. Eric ran it into the ground. We're about to lose everything. The business, the house, your mother's beside herself. My heart thundered in my chest, betraying me. I thought I'd excised this need. This desire for him to finally see me. Recognize my worth. The approval I'd chased my entire life dangled before me now like bait in a trap. I'll sign it all over to you, he continued, eyes brightening with desperate hope. Full ownership, no strings, come back and save it, son. It's your legacy, too. My laugh surprised even me, hollow and sharp, scraping up from somewhere deep and wounded. My legacy? You gave my legacy to Eric. It stopped being mine the moment you chose him. I made a mistake, he admitted, desperation edging his voice. The biggest mistake of my life. He stepped closer, the familiar cologne mingling with something new, the sour scent of failure. Your mother cries at night, Samuel. She misses you. We both do. The guilt card played expertly as always. My chest constricted, memories flooding back, Sunday dinners, fishing trips, rare moments of his pride when I'd mastered a difficult skill. The father I'd loved despite everything. But this business, he continued, seizing on my momentary softness, it's been in our family for 3 generations. Your grandfather built it from nothing. Can you really just let it die? Something shifted in my chest then, not forgiveness, but clarity. The realization that I was no longer the person who had walked out of his office 3 years ago. That person had been defined by his need for this man's approval. I was defined by something else now. It's already dead, I said quietly. You killed it the day you decided I wasn't good enough. He reached for my arm, his fingers trembling. I stepped back, the motion small but definitive, a boundary. Don't you see? His voice cracked. I'm trying to make it right. I need you, son. Need, not love, not respect, just need. You chose Eric over me when it was convenient, I told him, each word deliberate and final. You don't get to choose me now that it's necessary. I watched him leave, shoulders hunched against a weight I refused to carry anymore. That night, I slept better than I had in 3 years. 2 weeks later, the next blow came. A text from an unknown number. We need to talk about your son. Heather, always knowing exactly how to pull me back in. My hands trembled as I stared at the screen, stomach dropping into a bottomless void. Your son. 2 words that cracked my carefully reconstructed world right down the middle. The paternity test was simple enough. A cheek swab at the clinic, 2 weeks of wondering, sleepless nights imagining possibilities. The results came back on a Tuesday morning. 99.8% probability I was the father of Louis Kane, age 2. I met them at a playground near her sister's apartment. The moment I saw him, this small person with my eyes, my serious expression, my habit of studying things before engaging, something ancient and primal shifted in my chest. A tectonic movement of the heart, the certainty that nothing would ever be the same again. Heather was subdued, makeup not quite hiding the shadows under her eyes or the fatting bruise near her temple. Something cold settled in my stomach at the sight. She looked both older and younger somehow, worn down yet vulnerable in a way she'd never allowed herself to be with me. Eric left, she explained, watching Louis on the swings. He's in Arizona with some woman he met online. The divorce was finalized last month. Why tell me now? I asked, the question that had burned in me since her text. Why not when he was born? She looked away, fingers nervously twisting the strap of her purse. I wanted to tell you, she whispered, her voice catching. From the moment I felt him kick, I knew, a mother knows Samuel. I waited, giving her space to continue. When I told Eric I wanted a paternity test, he changed, started drinking more, checking my phone. Her eyes flicked to the fatting bruise, then away. He said if the baby was yours, we'd lose everything, the business, the house, his father's respect. My jaw tightened. So you let me believe. He swore we'd do a test after things settled down, she interrupted, words tumbling out faster now. Said his father would never need to know, that we could figure it out between us. But then the baby came, and Eric started having problems at work and... She wiped at her eyes. He convinced me it was just easier to keep things as they were, that telling you would destroy everyone's lives for nothing. For nothing, I repeated flatly. My son was nothing. I was wrong, she whispered, echoing my father's too-late admission. By the time I realized how completely wrong I was, it felt impossible to fix. How do you tell someone you've kept their child from them for over a year? Her eyes finally met mine, swimming with tears. And then Eric started getting physical. I couldn't. I didn't know how to. Easier, that word again. The path of least resistance that had carved the terrain of my family's choices into a landscape of betrayal. But beneath Heather's words, I sensed something my father had never offered: genuine remorse, complicated by fear. I watched my son laugh as he came down the slide. My son who had been kept from me for convenience. My son who needed me now that Eric was gone. I thought maybe we could try again, Heather ventured, her hand brushing mine. For Louis's sake, we were good together, Samuel. The touch that once would have sent electricity through me now felt like nothing at all. I'll be getting a lawyer tomorrow, I said, my eyes still on Louis. We'll work out custody and support legally, properly. Samuel, I'll be a father to him, I continued, cutting her off. The best father I can be, but you and I are done, Heather. We've been done since the night I found you with my brother. In the months that followed, I created a life that had room for Louis in it. Switched to a management position with more regular hours. Found a 2-bedroom apartment with a park nearby. Built him a bedroom with dinosaur decals on the walls and a nightlight that projected stars on the ceiling. Every other weekend and Wednesday evenings he was mine. We established routines. Pancakes on Saturday mornings. Stories before bed. Small, sacred rituals that began to heal something in both of us. I met Vanessa at a supplier's conference, a commercial architect with quick wit and thoughtful eyes. Our relationship developed slowly, carefully. I was different now, warier, yes, but also more honest about what I wanted, what I needed. By the time I introduced her to Louis, I was certain about where we were heading. The final confrontation came a year after my father's visit. Eric showed up at my job site, unannounced and unwelcome. Thinner, wild-eyed, with the desperate energy of a man running out of options. They're foreclosing next month, he blurted. Dad had a mild heart attack. Mom's selling her jewelry to pay medical bills. It's all falling apart and you're just, what, living your life, pretending we don't exist. I continued reviewing blueprints, refusing to be pulled into his chaos. That's exactly what I'm doing. You could help. You could save everything if you wanted to. I looked at my brother, really looked at him, and felt a strange sense of peace. I'm not responsible for fixing what you broke, Eric. Not anymore. It's your family, he shouted, causing heads to turn. No, I said calmly. Louis is my family. Vanessa is becoming my family. The people I've chosen who choose me back every day. They're my family. Eric's face crumpled, the bluster giving way to the fear beneath it. For a moment, I glimpsed the little brother I'd protected from bullies, taught to ride a bike, helped with homework. A flicker of grief passed through me for what might have been. I'm sorry, he whispered. I ruined everything, I know that now. Too little, too late, the refrain of my family's relationship with me. But standing there, I realized something important. I no longer needed their apologies. Their regret was their burden to carry, not mine. Goodbye, Eric, I said, turning back to my work. Not cruel, just final. After he left, one of my crew approached cautiously. Everything okay, boss? I looked around at the job site, my team, my work, my life built on my own terms. Yeah, I said. Everything's exactly as it should be. 3 months later, I heard through mutual connections that Kane Electrical had closed its doors for good. My parents had sold their house and moved to a retirement community in Arizona. Eric had taken a job as a sales rep for an electrical supply company in Nevada. The news settled over me like a light snow, covering the landscape but not changing its essential shape. I felt no triumph, no satisfaction. Just quiet acknowledgement that some chapters end without resolution, some wounds heal but leave scars. Last week I received a small package in the mail. Inside was my grandfather's old multimeter, the one he'd used to teach me about circuits when I was 8. No note, just the battered tool that had sparked my love for this trade. My mother's doing, I suspected, her version of an olive branch. I placed it on the shelf in my home office, next to the framed photo of Louis and me at the zoo and the blueprint of the first building Vanessa and I had collaborated on. Past, present, and future aligned at last. They say the best revenge is living well. I don't know about that. What I do know is that sometimes the thing you thought you wanted most, your father's approval, your family's legacy, the business you helped build, turns out to be just a shadow of what you really need. What I needed was to be valued, to be chosen, to build something authentic, something that couldn't be taken away with a signature. I'm building that now, one day at a time. And unlike the business my grandfather started, this legacy can't be handed over in a leather portfolio or stolen with a betrayal. This legacy lives in the lessons I teach my son, in the love I share with Vanessa, in the homes I help wire and the apprentices I train. Some days I still wake up with the phantom weight of shouldering my family's expectations, but it grows lighter with each passing month, replaced by the solid, real weight of Louis sleeping against my chest or Vanessa's head on my shoulder. That weight I'll carry gladly. That weight feels like freedom.